Good evening.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, all. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
DL, you look awfully mean there this evening, but I do like your eyes.
I was playing around with some color grading in Lightroom last night.
Beth, it looks like you're using Nate's Zoom account.
Hey, Jim, how's the audio?
Hey, John, you know what? You're not too bad for a change.
Hey, way to go. I did some adjustments before I came in, and that's why I think it's working a little bit better.
Well, you know what's funny? You went from okay to really good there. As you talked, it got better.
Ah, well, good. I think it's where the microphone is at on this laptop that's causing
You're perfectly clear.
that. Okay. Well, I'll just go back to trick-or-treating here.
So Donna, you're muted right now, but you've got me really curious. You're taking your call in a car, maybe? You're muted. Yep. Oh, there you go. Okay, so you're not showing as muted, but I don't think we can hear you.
Your mic's not turned on.
Now? Can you hear me
There
now?
you go.
There we go. Okay, I'm picking my son up from swim class. I'm waiting outside for him to get in the car.
Oh, okay.
I was worried it looked like I'm getting pulled over because there's other parents behind me with their blinkers on.
That's kind of what it looks like.
I'm not.
All right, guys, it's about 5 after. Got several people on. I don't know if Annie or Margie or Marty. Oh, there's Marty. Melissa, a few people that are usually here, they're missing, but maybe they'll pop in here shortly. So with that being said, Jim, do you want to go ahead and start with your section and we'll go from there? I have about a 12-minute video I want to show at the end on doing reflections in Photoshop. Other than that, you're welcome to have as much time as you choose.
Okay, of course, and we're going to do I don't think there were a whole lot the last time I checked. We're going to review the Halloween photos as well.
Yeah, there was only like 6 or 8, so we need a little bit of time for that, but not much.
Okay. Let's see, a few items before we get into the news. I'll try to keep this chronological. So just reminders for the most part. Saturday, the 31st is the last day to enter the October photo contest. And by the way, Dennis, I'm glad to see, I think this is a first time entry for you. So good to see that one.
Yeah, it might be the second, but there's not very many.
Okay, well, anyway, glad you're in. And it looks like, I didn't try to count, Marty, I'm not sure if you paid attention. It looks like we have a lot of entries this month, though, so far. You're muted.
I know. I believe so.
Let's see. So November the 1st, which is Sunday, those of you who have put in for the monthly, not the monthly, the photo show at Feathers and Irwin, Sunday is your drop off for the photos. And let's see.
Jim, do you know the requirements for identification of the photos? Do they want labels put on the back? Or are they going to put labels on the back?
Well, so I'll let Brian maybe address this if I don't catch it correctly. But,
Your photo should always be identified on the back. If you want to just cut out or print out the prospectus and cut out that little section that has your name and phone number on it, that's fine. Or if you want to put that on the back of your picture, but pictures should always be identified on the back when being turned into a show.
Okay.
Just one question. When's the best time to drop off the photos at Feathers?
What
was the time on the prospectus?
I can't remember offhand.
Give me a moment. I'll look it up. I don't remember what the time was.
Yeah, I don't seem to have it handy.
I think it was 11 to 3.
Okay.
I was going to say 11 to 3 also.
All right.
Okay.
That's shaking her head.
Thanks.
Must be 11 to 3. Let's see. So our November meeting is Monday, November the 9th, and this is a reminder that we're going to have a guest speaker there, Ann Crabell from the Westmoreland Museum of American Art. And November 11 is when your list of member accomplishments is due back to me for the proposal we're putting together to hopefully get a show at the museum sometime maybe next year or the following year. So please try to get those into me by November the 11th. And and you have a month, but November the 30th is when the requirement is to get your tree photos into the Google Drive folder for the photo portfolio on trees for Hannistown. And I think that's it. Any questions as far as what's going on in the next month with the club? Oh, I'm sorry, before we go any further, you might notice Mary Ann on the call here. She's waving to us. Mary Ann's one of our new members. I think we introduced you to Donna back sometime, one of our previous meetings in the last month or so. But Mary Ann, if you want to unmute yourself and just kind of introduce us to yourself.
Sure. I'm Mary Ann Curley, and I've been to 2 of the workshops at Hannistown that were presented by the Westmoreland Photography Society, and I enjoyed them. I'm not really that great with photography. I am interested and just thought I'd try to glean some information from you guys.
Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Candy.
Okay, thanks, Marianne.
You're welcome.
Hopefully one of these months or years we'll actually have face-to-face meetings again. It'll be a little bit easier to reach your fellow members.
Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you.
And let's see, Margie, I notice you've got a new personal photo there. That's nice. Okay, give me a second here to share my screen.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Yeah, that's Sky. That's my other baby.
Okay.
I can never get her face. It's always butt shots or side shots.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Alrighty. So there's about a little over 10 or so, maybe a dozen different items here from Petapixel we'll go through, and hopefully it won't take too long. So this first one is Nikon's coming out with, I'll call it version 2 of the Z6 and Z7 mirrorless cameras that came out with roughly a year or so ago. And you see in the title there, it says with dual card slots. A lot of photographers complained when those two cameras came out last year with just one card slot. So they apparently heard their customers' complaints and stuck in a second slot for this.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
all we're seeing is your OneNote.
Oh,
You did that once before to us too.
yeah. So that's interesting. Okay. So let me try it again then.
If you're using multiple screens, share the whole screen rather than just the,
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of thought I did that, but apparently not, obviously. Okay, your screen sharing is, let me stop the share. Try this again. Oh, there we go. Okay now?
Yep.
All right. You know what, Brian, I be honest with you, I still don't understand what I did wrong, because the first time I went to share, it was my, I guess maybe it depends on which window. Oh, it was a different app.
You can share the program or you can share the actual screen itself. You've shared the program the first time.
Okay. All right. I need to.
If
pay
you share
closer
that whole
attention.
screen, anything you do on that screen will show up then.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Both of these cameras are going to be available sometime in November and or December. And the Z6 is 2,000 for the body and the Z7 is 3,000. The primary difference, I think, between the two cameras is sensor size. It's the 6 is a 24.5 megapixel and the 7 is almost a 46 megapixel sensor. And I guess, well, they're both full frame mirrorless cameras, if we weren't aware of that either. Did anybody buy either a Nikon or Canon mirrorless?
No.
Nobody yet?
Canon
Nope.
in my case.
Nope.
Okay, just it's interesting. Well,
They
Brian,
want a lot of money for them.
you say they want a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, certainly these two are expensive, yeah. Brian, speaking of mirrorless, any news on that potential speaker for us later on?
Yes, I got him lined up. I'm just picking up a date for when he wants to do it. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a regular meeting night or a SWG light meeting or a SWG meeting. But once we get a date set up, he will do the talk.
Okay, good. Okay, and then on to the additional new cameras coming out. Sony's coming out with a A9 model, And to be honest with you, I've heard of 4K video. I didn't know there was such a thing as 8K video, but apparently it's got even more resolution. And it seems like 4K is plenty enough, but I guess not. The other thing about this one, it's got a 50 megapixel sensor, which is getting amazingly large. And again, it's full frame mirrorless. And I didn't see a cost, at least there's no cost listed in this article on it. And not to be undone, Canon's coming out with the 24 megapixel mirrorless camera. And this is a second generation as well.
Zoom meeting with the photography group.
And it's coming out, I think, late November. And this one's a little cheaper. This is a $600 body, but it is an APS-C sensor. It's not full frame. And Pentax is coming out with a new APS-C camera. The reason I primarily selected this one to show, and obviously it's an expensive camera, it's $2,500, but what caught my eye was the ISO 1.6 million.
Yeah.
And I guess it can take photos in pitch black, I don't know. So I don't know if any of you can address is it reasonable to be even to have that type of ISO on a camera? And any comments or?
I don't even use above 1600.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know, I could, but at least sometimes probably, but I don't.
I can't even imagine what the noise is like at that point.
Well, 1600, I've used.
No, I mean the 1.6 million I meant to say. I'm sorry.
They're a lot less noisy than they used to be.
It just seems, well, yeah, I guess you have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
All right.
I wish you could see it on the big screen.
Okay, moving on to smartphones. Google's coming out with a Pixel 5 and a Pixel 4a. And the 5 is $700 camera, and the 4a is a $500 camera. And I guess what's new is they're putting in a ultra wide lens. It's a 16 megapixel lens, in addition to a standard 12 megapixel lens. And they don't have a telephoto lens on it, but at least according to Google, they've improved their digital zoom technology, where apparently they think they can do without a telephoto, and basically you'll just digital zoom in as you would like for a particular shot. And I think they're coming out, if they're not out now, they're coming out sometime soon. And then the other one on Google is Google Photos. And I think, let's see here, I think they have some examples of this. They're coming out with two features. One is this artificial intelligent portrait light. And then the other is a one-tap edit, which I think is a AI-assisted edit as well. And I think they've got some examples down here. That just shows them improving the photo. And then I thought this one was kind of cool, where you can change the direction of the lighting on the portrait. That seems like a neat feature. So that's for your phone. And then, of course, any discussion on smartphones would be incomplete without a new iPhone. They're coming out sometime, I think, in November. There's an iPhone 12 Pro and a 12 Pro Max for $1,000 and $1,100 respectively. And the Pro Max, I guess, is getting a significantly larger sensor to it. And also in-body image stabilization, which I don't know if that's a first for a phone or not, to be honest with you. Anybody familiar with iPhones? Did they have in-body stabilization previously?
Mine doesn't.
Did you say no, Dennis?
I did.
Yeah, no, this is the first one, I think.
Okay. All right, next one up here. So those of you who are using Lightroom maybe are already familiar with this. I don't know if it's out yet or not. I think it is. This
It
is
is.
advanced color grading. If you're not familiar with it, I'm going to just play a short video here. That's not it. I think there's a video with this one. Well, crap. Oh, you know what? It's here. Let me refresh this. There we go. Okay, this is only 2 minutes long.
I think the video is muted.
Yeah, you know what? I don't have it on mine. Let me see here.
Yeah, the video is muted.
Hold on. Oh, here it is down here. It's muted. Let me start this over.
I'm here to give you a sneak peek at an exciting new tool coming soon to Lightroom, Lightroom Classic, and ACR, Advanced Color Grading. For this demo, I'll be using Lightroom on desktop. Color grading draws inspiration from the Lumetri panel within Adobe Premiere Pro and allows for edits within Lightroom to have a very cinematic look and feel. These before and after edits show how you can set the entire mood of an image using the color grading tools. Color grading is an upgraded version of the tool formerly known as split toning. You already know that split toning allows us to stylize our photographs by specifying the color tint of the shadows and highlights of an image. Color grading takes that one step further and introduces mid-tone color control, as well as new color wheels which offer precise control over the hue and saturation being selected. To make adjustments with the color wheels, just tap the selection point and drag it to the color hue you like. A click and drag directly in and out of center will trigger a saturation slider to pop up, keeping you locked in on the hue but allowing you to adjust the saturation. Selecting shadows, midtones, or highlights along the top will enlarge each respective color wheel and allow you to see more clearly what you're doing. In addition to the individual color wheels, a new global color wheel has been added, as well as luminance sliders to accompany each wheel. The new blending slider allows you to make even more nuanced adjustments. The new highly sophisticated color grading tools shown here will provide you with the added control you need for beautifully cinematic results. Join us at the 100% virtual and 100% free Adobe Max happening from October 20th through the 22nd to hear about all of the new features and innovations coming to Lightroom this year.
So I guess I'm curious, have any of you used this feature in Lightroom? Does anybody use split toning in general when they're post-processing their photos? It's something I'm kind of interested in learning, but have never done it.
I have not.
And Jim, I've used it, but I've only used it for black and white images where I wanted to kind of simulate a toning, like selenium toning and stuff like that.
I've used it on a sunset picture. where I wanted to kind of highlight the burnt auburn warm colors of the sky and the cool colors of the water. So I've used it there to kind of accentuate some of the colors, but that's about it.
Used it on like engagement and wedding photos once in a while when they like a certain color scheme, or if I don't know, they like quote unquote country chic. You can move things around and kind of get it to their liking that way.
Okay, something new to learn. Okay, we've been talking about Luminar quite a bit over the last year or so. And I think at one of our previous meetings, we mentioned that Luminar, so that the current version is called Luminar 4. Sometime later this year, they're coming out with, basically it's from a ground up, supposedly, completely new version of Luminar called Luminar AI. And I have been watching a few YouTube videos on it. There's not a whole lot of detail out there yet. To be honest, it looks like the user interface is very similar. I think a lot of the big changes are under the hood changes from a performance standpoint, but they're also adding additional AI features to it as well. And this won't show you a whole lot because at least I have not seen them showing a whole lot on the capabilities of the new Luminar AI. But this is just a 1-minute video that just kind of touches some of the major things that will be available in it. So we'll play this one too. So that just gives you a really, really brief taste of what they're up to. Margie, I couldn't help but think about you. The other video that I watched on this was, it showed them adding fog to a scene. And I can recall back a month or two ago, you kind of showing I'll call it a manual method that you like to use to add fog.
Yeah, it's so easy that way, and you add the fog exactly where you want to add it. Now, you just showed us this. A lot of that is already on just Luminum 4 because I downloaded the free trial and I've been playing with it. And so what's the difference between AI and Lumen 4?
I don't think I can enumerate because I haven't figured that out yet, but they are adding, well, I know the one is, I think it's a portrait feature that's a little bit more sophisticated. I think there's improvements to some of the AI features.
Some of the Lumen 4 features you're saying. There's an improvement to them? Because a lot of that stuff that was just on this video, I saw when I was using Lumen 4.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's a subtle difference, I think. The reason I mentioned you and the addition of the fog is that they kind of showed some three-dimensional mapping of a couple of examples of their photos. And what they can do, they can vary rather than just put a fog layer over the entire photo or having to mask the fog on areas that you might want to do it manually, they analyze the photo and determine what's in the background and what's in the foreground and adjust the density of the fog, if you will, accordingly. And I don't think Luminar 4 has that capability. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I still use PS for fog, so I didn't try their fog, but they do have fog on Lumen 4. I just didn't try it.
They do. There is fog on 4, and that's where I'm saying I think the fog feature is an example of how they're improving upon it in the new version.
All right.
Excuse me. There's a gentleman by the name of Jim Pix. He has a video. Yeah, he has a video that just came out on the last day or so. He has a beta version of this program. I forget how long it lasts, like, I don't know, 5 minutes or more. You can see it on YouTube to help you out to learn a little bit more about this program.
What was the name?
Jim Pix, P-I-X.
Isn't it Nix?
Or Nix. I'm losing my mind today, so bear with me. Or you can just key in Luminar AI. There's a few other people that have beta versions of the program.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
So, and by the way, speaking of Luminar, our November SWG meeting, we're in, unfortunately, Luminar AI, I don't think will be out by then, or if it is out by then, it's going to be newly out. But the plan is to do a review of Luminar 4 for our next SWG meeting.
Sounds good. It's really fairly simple.
It's extremely simple to use, yeah. And I think we mentioned, at least this was my personal comment before, you're probably not going to want to switch post-processing software exclusively to Luminar, whether it's 4 or AI,
right? Because
its cataloging feature, its photo management features are not very sophisticated. So you're probably going to want to use this as a plugin to Lightroom or Photoshop rather than a standalone program. But that's my personal opinion. I'm sure Luminar would differ with me.
Same thing as, same way you would use Topaz and Silverflex Pro.
Yeah, I think that's a good analogy, Margie. Okay, well, so the next thing that's up is, as much as we've talked about Luminar over the last year using artificial intelligence in these magic sliders, it's apparent that Adobe has got the message, and they do consider Luminar a major competitor, because if you've been paying attention, both Photoshop and Lightroom, and for that matter, Photoshop Elements, all of their next editions are coming out with significant amount of AI editing features. And this one here is on Photoshop Smart Portrait. And this is a 4-minute video. So if you'll bear with me, this one I thought was pretty interesting too.
Jim, just to comment, Photoshop has sky replacement as well in the edit tab. So it's competing with Luminar, I guess, because if you have a photograph, you can replace the sky by going to the edit down menu and then choose sky. And there's a whole variety of sky replacements.
I saw that, Bob. Yeah, that's a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
I haven't used that yet. Have you zoomed in to 100% to see how?
It's pretty good. I mean, I used it a couple of times just to play with it. And then, you know, instead of calling it AI, they call it neural replacement. So it's kind of interesting how they're rewording it instead of AI to something else. Neural elements.
Neural filters.
Neural filters, right. N-E-U-R-A-L.
Yeah, but you're right, Buzz. Same thing. So this feature that Photoshop has for the smart portraits, Well, we'll just go ahead and watch it, I guess.
Hi, today I want to show a brief demonstration highlighting some of the new AI features in Adobe Photoshop featuring GPU accelerated performance on NVIDIA GPUs. The new Neural Filters option in Photoshop offers 8 new AI-based filters that allow artificial intelligence to supercharge your workflow. While I don't have time to cover all of these filters, let's take a look at 2 in particular: skin smoothing and smart portrait. One of the many ways that artists use Photoshop, and one that is personally a big use case for me, is retouching portrait photographs. I spend a good amount of my post-processing time just correcting minor skin imperfections in my portrait images. I've also spent a lot of money on plugins which attempt to speed up this process. I'm going to show you how a new Photoshop AI feature called skin smoothing dramatically speeds up this process. We can see that my subject here has minor skin imperfections that we'd like to clean up for our final image. One common way to clean up these imperfections would be to use the spot healing brush on the blemished areas. However, if you're like me, you've probably found that this method usually creates a different type of imperfection while attempting to fix the original blemish. And even when it works perfectly, it's a time-consuming process. Let's try using the new AI skin smoothing tool. First, we'll open the filter menu and select the Neural Filters option. This will open the Neural Filters panel where we can enable skin smoothing. Skin smoothing takes advantage of GPU acceleration to quickly remove the skin imperfections. This smart AI tool easily identifies and removes spots and blemishes while maintaining the integrity of the overall skin texture, which is critical for realistic final images, and avoiding that over-processed look that's a telltale sign of retouching. We can click the Preview Changes button to quickly show the image before and after applying skin smoothing. GPU accelerated AI skin smoothing is a super fast way to create great natural looking skin in your portraits. Now let's take a look at a new beta feature in Photoshop, Smart Portrait. Located within the Beta Features tab of the Photoshop Neural Filter panel, AI-powered Smart Portrait allows you to perform photo editing feats in Photoshop that sound like science fiction. First, we'll enable Smart Portrait. Smart Portrait uses NVIDIA's StyleGAN, a style-based generator architectural for generative adversarial networks, which allows Photoshop to modify information in an image, even if that information doesn't exist within the original image. Let's take a look. The first time we apply any change to the image data is sent to the Adobe Sensei AI Cloud, which creates a digital blueprint and a unique image fingerprint of the image. With the image blueprint data in hand, I'm going to show you how we can take a stock photo and create a completely unique looking image. The first thing I'll do is change the position of the subject's head so they are looking slightly out of frame. Now I'm going to adjust the gaze so that our subject is looking back at us. Now this is really neat. Let's lower the facial age and we get a younger looking version of our subject. I'll adjust the hair thickness slider to give them a different hairstyle. Now I can use the light direction slider and experiment with how changing the light direction affects my image. Finally, I can create an older looking version of my subject by increasing the facial age slider value. Now, we'll readjust our lighting for our final look. Then I'll apply the changes. Because the effect applies the changes to a new layer, I can easily clean up any artifacts that might have been created by Smart Portrait. NVIDIA GPUs combined with Photoshop AI features like skin smoothing and Smart Portrait offer an amazing new way for artists to edit their portraits in ways they never imagined possible.
Cool.
So aside from the, the technical aspect of this, when I watched this video for the first time, all I could think about was the ethics of it. Is it going too far?
Well, it feels that way to me. My first impression is, oh no. But I'm sure that, you know, you could find some unique use for it, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd ever want to go that far.
That was just funky, them moving the guy's head and his eyes and,
Yeah.
you know, aging him.
Yeah, both going up in age and younger in age.
And you're making them younger. Well, you know, we all want to be made younger, so you know, hey.
I think that the question of ethics should have been asked several years ago at this point, when we started making things easy to put lightning in the sky and change the skies like Luminar does. And now we're talking about aging a person. Sure, that's fun and it's cool and it's neat and it's something that'll be fun to play with. But I think that at some point we have to say, this is no longer photography and it's art, or it's a painting, or it's some other form of photography, and it has to be designated that way. You know, just, I mean, if we look at the picture that you're seeing in front of, Jim, what if I take that picture and change that sky to a night sky and darken the whole picture up and turn that into a night picture?
Yeah.
Is it ethic? Is it look good? Yeah, it'll look good, but is it ethical? I don't think so. We need to consider that as photographers and what we're presenting when we present it. If we present it as this is digital art, then do whatever the hell you want. But if you present it as a photograph, then you have to hold yourself to a value that says this is a photograph and it's what it's supposed to be. Now for years and years, there's been, you know, I mean, Ansel Adams was one of the best at dodging and burning and making something out of nothing, basically. But it still was what was there. It wasn't a replacement or an addition of lightning bolts and skyscrapers and giraffes in the sky. So we have to consider what it is we're doing and decide how we're going to present it, I think, is really where the ethics part comes in.
Perhaps these companies are trying to compete with each other to get more subscribers and to, I mean, you got to add more trinkets, more features in order to make it attractive and to continue, you know, purchasing the product. But I think too, I think there's so much latitude there that you're right, Brian. I don't think we're seeing true photography with, you know, the basic concepts. What you're seeing is little fixtures here and there that, you know, may spice a photo. But again, is it true photography? Probably not. It's just another way of juicing up a picture that perhaps would not have been, you know, competitive or not.
One question I had is, and I haven't been involved long enough to have submitted photos for a whole lot of online contests and shows, but I don't recall reading the rules for any of those that I have, distinguishing between a photograph and a photograph that's been, you know, managed like what they're showing here.
The bigger shows, the real shows, like the ones in the big galleries and stuff, will have a designated digital media section, and that's what they're expecting to see, things that are out of this world for digital work and not a photograph. I know a lot of the shows that I did several years ago, it had to be a photograph. I mean, if it was digitally enhanced more than what normal would be, which would be dodging and burning and cropping and stuff and such that you would do in a dark room, it was required to be put in a different category. But the ethical question is, when do you decide that you've done more on it than what a normal photograph would be? I have a lot of problems with this because I like to fool around with stuff like this and you know, change the skies out and do all that kind of stuff, and I think that's cool and I enjoy doing that. But at the same time, coming from a newspaper background and not being allowed to remove the power lines in a picture, I like my pictures to be more, hey, that's what it is, that's what's there, and that's what should be there. But you know, it's at some point you have to designate that you've done too much work to it. And it has to be something that's not a photograph.
I'm sitting here kind of tearing things apart through my mind. You know, if you look at the base, if you take a picture and you don't do anything and you print it, that's a documentary photograph because it documents the scene. Now, even as you were talking about with Ansel Adams, I still put that in a category of, even though it's the scene, it's an artistic interpretation of the scene. Now we jump ahead 40 or 50 years and we have more ability to do artistic interpretations of the scene. So with me, I draw the line as where did you leave the point where you left a documentary photograph and began doing artistic interpretations of what you saw? That's what's going through my mind, Brian. You know, it doesn't completely align with yours, but yeah, that's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah, you know, I've done a lot of plants and stuff that I had to document, and it had to be exactly what the plant looked like because it was going to go into the magazines and Texas A&M, a database, and etc. But when you really start doctoring it and changing the colors to maybe a different orange or different red, or adding, like Brian said, the sky that was blown out to putting another sky in, that, you know, that's more artistic to me. That's more artwork than actually documenting what you took a picture of.
Yeah, I've talked with some gallery people several years ago, and you leave the straight documentary photograph and you go to an artistic interpretation. And the words they use is the photograph is no longer a representational photograph of the scene. They were using the word representational.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When John, you might have been alluding to this, I think the problem is there's such a huge gray area between white and black here. I mean, as soon as you put your raw photo in Lightroom or wherever you like to post-process your photos, you know, which sliders and how far away or how far along on the slider scale is reasonable or not. It's because once you touch it, you've touched it.
No, once it's a raw, you can still take a raw picture and use it as a documentation because you want that color to look exactly like that flower should be. And you're going to have to adjust accordingly.
I say we all go back to film and get rid of digital altogether.
No.
Hey, there you go.
In black and white film, no color at all. No, it's
okay. I'm down.
This has always been a question, and it has been a question. I know when I worked in the newspaper, this was a major problem and a major question as to what you should and shouldn't do because of that type of photography. There is room for all types, and there is room for you making your decisions. And if you want that flower to be purple and it was a green flower, so what? Make it happen. But you recognize that you've changed it. No. My problem arises. I want to see. I want to know that, hey, this isn't exactly what was supposed to be there. And that's personal for me. I don't know that everyone's like that. And a lot of people just like looking at pictures and they enjoy it and they'll go and see it. But for me, it's more about what was there and making you see what I saw. And yeah, adjusting some colors and like Margie said, getting the flower to the right color makes sense to me. And I don't have a problem with that. It's when you've taken that beautiful purple flower and you've turned it to red, yellow, and green, and it wasn't there, that wasn't the actual color of the flower, then that becomes a question to me as to whether or not that's considered photography or art.
It's art.
Right. But not everyone agrees on that. And I believe that a lot of the images we see are that way. They've been adjusted, and with new things like Luminar AI and this thing that you just showed us with Photoshop and things that are coming out in Lightroom and stuff like that, it's making this so much easier for people to tell a little lie a little bit with their photo, and it looks really good and it looks right. It doesn't, you can't look at it. It used to be years ago, you could look at a picture and go, yeah, they screwed with that one. You can't do that anymore. They're too good. People are too good. And these programs are getting better and better and better. So that's where, for me personally, that's where the ethics comes in. And I disagree a lot with people putting these things into photography contests that are not photography. They may have started out as a photo, but they sure as hell didn't finish as a photo because they've done everything to them in Photoshop or Luminar or whatever program.
Please go back there with Daddy.
Not a representation anymore of what it actually was.
Well, go hide back there. Hide under the table.
Jim, Jim.
I'm sorry, I was laughing at Marty telling us to hide under the table.
Oh, I forgot my mic was on.
I think most of the gallery pictures can be art or just, journalism type picture, documentation. But most of the shows that we enter in, that's art, because if there's a telephone line in there, although I like telephone lines and Beth doesn't, I like leaving the telephone lines in. Beth likes taking them out. But I think we are adding our personal touch to it is what is important. And I'm not documenting it for some database at A&M or some magazine or something. I'm not doing that.
And
I'm making art for the gallery.
I'm agreeing with you. Yes, we all do that. But at what point do we have to say, this is no longer just a regular photograph and it's now become digital art? That's the question that I've always had. At what point is that? Because that point is different for everyone. That point's different for Dennis. Dennis, most of your pictures are black and white and are beautiful representations of what you saw there. I don't feel like, most of the time when I look at your pictures, I don't feel that you've overworked anything. You haven't changed anything. You've showed us what is there.
Because I don't know how.
In black and white. Yeah. And Margie, most of your stuff is that way too. But every once in a while, you get into some really cool things that we know is digital art, but you represent it as digital art. You tell us.
Yeah.
I worked on that. I added a whole bunch of stuff to that.
Well, Brian, I think
we decide to tell that question, to tell that to the viewer that it's no longer a photograph, it's now digital art. That's my question.
Well, and my answer to that would be is if it's a photograph, if we're using the word photograph, then a synonym for that is a documentary photograph.
Right.
But then you can also say, if you're making changes like Margie makes changes and I make changes, then I call it a fine art photograph. It's an artistic interpretation.
But if you just merely make simple changes like in clarity or in Lightroom, like clarity and vibrance, and contrast, is that really, are you changing it fundamentally? No, just making some minor modifications. Is that still not good?
And again, when I worked for the newspaper, here was the rule. You were allowed to dodge, you were allowed to burn, you could sharpen and stuff like that. You could do your standard stuff that you would do in a darkroom. A standard darkroom, nothing fancy. You weren't allowed to remove anything. If you put a photo in the newspaper and removed one single thing from it, whether it be a power line or a pole or a person in the background, that was no longer considered photo. It needed to be listed as a digital media for the newspaper. And that's where I came. That's where I learned this from. So that's where my issue is because that's what I was taught.
You're right.
But as soon as you've done that, it was no longer a photojournalist type photograph. It became digital media or a digital art. And you had to represent it that way. And it had to be listed in the newspaper as a digital media. And if it wasn't, and somebody called you out on it, you got fired. So if someone was standing there next to you and they go, hey, wait a minute, in the background, there's supposed to be a flag on the pole back there, and there was no flag, you removed it. You got fired. You lost your job. That was it. Because you was no longer ethical. You didn't use your ethics to show an actual photograph. You changed it.
Yeah, I think most people do digital art when you look at it that way, because if there is a dot or something you want to remove, I'm not talking from the lens, I'm just saying, you have a little bit of tiny leaf off on the corner there that you don't want in there, you remove it. So we all, if you look at it that way, are doing digital art.
Right. But the question is, at what point is it too much digital art for it to no longer be a photo? That's my question. At what point, and I realize that this is a hard question, and none of you have the answer to this because no one does. But at what point have you done too much to a photograph to where you need to list it as this is digital art, this is no longer photography? I don't know what that point is. That's what I would like to know, but no one seems to have been able to answer that question in about 15 years for me. So if you guys can come up with an answer to that, I'd be glad. But like I said, keep doing what you do, and remove your pieces in the corners and adjust your colors and stuff like that. That's what we do, and that's what makes us have beautiful photographs. But I question that all the time, and I question that a lot when I look at photographs. Is this real or not? Was this a representation of what was actually there?
Yeah, unfortunately, Brian, and you of course pointed out, I don't think there is an answer to this.
Everybody has their own opinion. At least you start with a photograph, normally. So that's one good thing. What it turns out to be is another thing. So,
well, I'll tell you what,
the 16th of a square in a top left-hand corner used to be the photograph. The rest is something I put in there.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we move on, if there's anyone on the call who hasn't spoke on this issue that would like to say something, go ahead and take a turn and we'll move on.
All I know is I was thrilled to death when I took a few photos 2 weekends ago, and I didn't have to do anything to them. They came straight out of the camera, and they were almost perfect. It was like I just was flabbergasted. So to me, that's real photography right there, because it made me feel good that I didn't have to do anything, that I finally did something right to one of my photos.
I agree with Marty on that part, because I have taken some that, even in the raw state, look doggone good.
I mean, and like one in particular, it was like the shading was awesome. It looked like it was vinairetted. It looked, and then after, it looked awesome straight out of camera, but then there was like one leaf that I kind of made a little bit darker just because I kept looking over there. But other than that, I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to do that because it looked awesome without doing it. And then I did one of a pond or a lake or whatever that little place of water was.
A pond.
But I was flabbergasted at the photo and how it came out right out of the camera. It was like, I'll never get that again, probably. So, and
Marty's like, I'm not touching that. It's just.
It was almost perfect.
Yeah, it was. No doubt about it.
I'll probably never do that again. So. But that was art to me. And I'm an artist, so I like to change stuff and mix it up. And I'll let you know when I've messed it up. But to be able to be the artistic person behind the camera and to take that picture where it comes out perfect, that's true art. And I commend you all that can do that. Okay, I'm done.
All right, thanks. Well, I'll tell you what, anyone else feel like they want to comment on the subject before we move on?
Well, I think the photo means more to me when I drag myself out of bed in the morning to catch the sunrise, or try to determine where there might be fog or when there might be a foggy situation. You know, putting in the work up front to get the real thing. The photo means more to me, you know, instead of creating an artificial sunset or an artificial sunrise. When I would look
I
at
feel the same way, putting in that work, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean the same to me. I mean, it might look nice. You might consider it a piece of art, but for me personally, it means more to me when I actually put the work in to try to get it real and get it right, like Marty said she did, if, you know, there's any chance of doing that.
I do have to say, I'll put in my 2 cents worth. I'm not quite sure that you can take a documentary photograph anymore with the way cameras themselves have been engineered to take excellent pictures. The colors are enhanced, the sharpness is enhanced, you know, anyway, so that's a question about documentary photographs. But when I take family photographs, basically what I'm doing on a computer is making them look like I wanted them to look when I took the picture, you know, exposure, contrast, etc. And I can do that in Lightroom. And that's about all I want to do. There's no way I'm going to go to artificial intelligence messing around. Okay. So yeah, it's a mind-blowing subject. It really is when you start talking about it. So I do appreciate everyone's opinions and ideas. That's all.
Thanks,
I like
Taylor.
taking them both ways. So, you know, I like the art and I like documentary.
Okay, well, anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. Interesting discussion. And
Very
there
good
never will be
discussion,
an
Matt.
answer
Very
to it. Okay, we're gonna just review a couple of wildlife photos here that I thought were kind of cute looking.
Jim,
Yes.
Before we move on, talking about pushing the envelope with AI, there's a web page called ClipDrop, CLIPDROP, where you could take a picture of an object with your phone, and that same picture you could transpose it on your main desktop, and it's merged into Lightroom. So it's something new that's happening. I mean, it's a subscription service, but again, the amazing thing, you could take a photo with a picture of an object with your iPhone and transpose it, not with anything, you know, like just show the picture on the computer screen, and it's transposed on the Photoshop desktop automatically.
Well, I gotta admit, I'm not sure I understood.
Well, in other words, if I take a picture of a lamp with my iPhone, I could easily maneuver that picture into a Photoshop on my desktop. You could just go to the webpage, ClipDrop, and there's like a 1-minute video how it's demonstrated. But it's, again, pushing the envelope on artificial intelligence and all these technologies that are being used. It's called ClipDrop, CLIPDROP.
Okay, thanks, Bob. So these are, I'm not sure who sponsored this contest. Wildlife Photographer of the Year. Okay, London's Natural History Museum sponsored this one.
Pretty
You know, it's
kitty.
funny, this is my own ignorance, but I always think of a tiger being out on a field's not the correct term, but you don't, yeah, on the plains, yeah, as opposed to in a forest.
Oh, jungle.
Oh, gross.
Fox got the goose.
That's cool.
So it's not an octopus, I don't think.
And that is why Brian doesn't go in the ocean.
I think it's a squid. Look at the back part of it. It's a squid.
Well, squid has 6 arms, so I think it is.
All right. It is evil looking though. You're right, Brian.
Go babies.
Oh, look here, cute.
Run, baby, run.
And I'm pretty sure they're not kitty cats, but I don't know what type of cat it is.
Lynx? Well, no, they're not lynx.
They're from China. It's a Chinese kitty cat.
Chinese kitty cat. All right.
See, he's got the squinty eyes.
All right.
Here's a clownfish.
Yep.
That's Nemo.
Yep.
Right.
Looking for me, Nemo. There he is.
Well, you know, it's what I mean. The photo of the fish itself would be nice, even if it was a black background. But whatever type of seaweed or whatever that's in, it really kind of enhances the photo.
Yes.
It's great background.
It's an anemone.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Could
Oh,
be.
she muted herself. Buggy, buggy.
The Last Bite. Oh, okay. I didn't pick this up yet.
You
didn't see the little ant
Yeah.
down there.
That's pretty cool.
Munching on the leg.
It's Ant-Man.
Aw, look at all the monkeys. They're all chained.
Yeah, they all are. Look at all the cages in the background.
I'd be in there with bolt cutters. Well, I don't even need bolt cutters. I just undo them.
Jimmy Durante.
I know.
Yep. I always see pictures of this kind of monkey, and that's the first thing I think about. You get the big schnoz. Lots of schnoz.
Oh my.
Needs to go to LA and get a nose job.
The orange hair does have an impact too.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what's wildlife about this one, but it's there.
There.
Wow. I didn't know polar bears were in entertainment.
He's got a muzzle of some sort on him.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they declawed it as well.
I don't think so.
Oh, well, that is.
Oh.
Bad hair day.
Wow.
Here, dear. Here's your dinner.
That's pretty cool.
And I thought I looked bad in the morning.
Look at that 600 millimeter.
His eyeballs are bigger than his head.
Looks like he has a hangover.
That in Luminar. And I guess if you consider flowers to be wildlife, it's a nice photo.
Yeah.
Cool. There's probably an insect in there somewhere.
Maybe.
It's an ice ball.
What? Holy cow.
The tail of 2 wasps. And
looking.
5 seconds?
What was that, Margie?
5 seconds? Oh my goodness.
What?
You're not reading all the captions down below?
Not all of it. That's not possible, is it?
No.
A 5 second F3?
That's got to be a typo.
It's F13.
Unless they're using a flash to help
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the wings somehow.
Ain't no way in the world that's 5 seconds.
Yeah, I
What they
agree.
could have done was get a motion sensor. I know some people that do macro will set up like an infrared motion sensor, so it'll be pitch black, and then whenever somebody enters into that zone, it'll flash real quick, and then it'll continue exposing. So they may have done something where it was 5 seconds, but the actual exposure was like 1,000th of a second or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, he was under 10 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Nice job.
That's different.
Oh, that's horrible.
You know, it's hard to, it's got a 500 millimeter lens, but it's still pretty remarkable. You have to wonder where the photographer was for this thing. It looks like it's up on the cliff face.
Yeah, the picture's good. I don't like the animal being fed.
You don't like it being fed?
No, I don't like pictures of animals feeding other animals. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Margie.
Well, go get him a veggie burger.
The grocery store must have been closed.
Well, I don't, yeah, yeah, you're right.
Okay, that was it there.
But the meat from the grocery store is not the same thing. It's pretend meat.
You're right. It doesn't come from animals. It comes from
That's
the grocery
right.
store.
A lot of my meat is pretend meat.
So if anyone else is familiar with this service, by all means, I'll let you take it over and describe it. The way the article portrays this feature is it's an Uber for photography. Snapper wants to be the go-to service for business to get fast, easy access to photographers at rates as low as $89 per session. So basically, if one of your neighbors wants a high school portrait done of their son or daughter, they would go on Snapper and find some local photographer who would be willing to come over and take the shot for them. And apparently professional photographers do not like this idea.
I'm sure not.
Be kind of the equivalent of Uber drivers and taxi drivers, if you will.
It's hard to charge $2,000 for a photo session whenever you can go to Snapper and get it for 89 bucks.
Yeah, really.
That would be why professionals don't like it.
Okay, and then here's one more that is kind of an ethics discussion. So this story, and you can go on Petapexel and read the details for yourself, but to sum up the story is a woman was trying to get the city of New York to pass regulations that would prevent street photographers from doing their craft, if you will. And what's interesting about this, and I never really thought about this myself, we've talked about the issue with not wanting to take photos of children, But in this case, you can see in the title here, she's calling it a form of gender-based violence, if you will, against women for street photographers taking just not any type of, up the skirt photos or anything, just a woman, walking down the street and taking her photo. I think most of us know that in a public place, that's perfectly legal, at least here in the States it is. But but this woman, and I'm not sure if she's going to get very far with it, is attempting to get New York to ban street photography.
That would be the hardest place to ban something like that. It's the most photographed city.
I don't get where she says it's gender-based violence. How is it violent?
Maybe she's a prostitute.
What's that?
Nothing.
Oh, Marty.
Getting beat up with the camera or what? Ouch.
Yeah.
Taking that picture hurt.
Alrighty.
Hope she doesn't get very far with that, because sometimes when you look at those old street photography photographs, I mean, I'm grateful that we have them, because it's a true representation of what was going on at the time. So we'd lose an awful lot if, street photographers can't do their craft anymore.
Yep.
I just bought a book on, I'm sorry, interrupt. I just bought a book with Vivian Myers, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. It's an interesting book with a lot of different people in it. And I don't understand how this woman can say this is gender-based violence. I just don't get it.
I don't get it.
Stay there.
Nope, don't get it.
I agree. So, Brian, want to take over?
Do I need to get my whistle?
Yep. No, I'm here. Jeez,
Okay, I'll stop my share.
Did you fall asleep again, Brian?
No.
Okay.
No. All right, guys. So, excuse me. Let me get my screen up here. Our demonstration tonight was for Photoshop to show how to make a reflection. I found a video. We're just going to watch a video on it. I didn't have time to actually sit down and do it myself, but it doesn't look very, very difficult or very hard. This guy takes it a step or two further from being a reflection to actually making it look like a water puddle that's being reflected as well. So it gets a couple steps beyond just a reflection. But anyhow, here we go. Let me share my screen. Computer sound. Okay. You see a YouTube?
Yep.
Today, I'm going to show you how to create realistic looking reflections inside of Adobe Photoshop. I'm also going to show you some cool tips and tricks and things you can do with reflections to really get that extra something out of them. Hey guys, I apologize I wasn't able to get a video up last week. The dog ate my homework. Actually, I have a really good excuse. I was on the road touring with Kiss and David Lee Roth as the tour photographer. And I was supposed to have only been gone for 3 days. They kidnapped me for 11 days. So I missed being able to make my video and upload. So I apologize, guys. But today is a special day. Today is the 30th anniversary of Adobe Photoshop. And guess what? I still have my floppy disks from my original version inside of the PC or Windows. So I'm curious, what version did you guys start on in Photoshop? So let's get started with the tutorial right now. We're going to be looking at creating a photorealistic reflection, and also we're going to do some things. We'll make a puddle and some other things with Photoshop right now. So here we are is a photo I shot of this beautiful Aston Martin DBS. I want to thank my friend George for helping me get my hands on this car. All right, so why don't we look at making this reflection right now? So any kind of reflection you're doing, you're going to start with the same thing. We're going to grab this marquee tool, and then we're going to drag and make a selection around the area we want to reflect. Now we want to reflect right at the bottom of the wheels. So I've made a selection around the top part of that image. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the layers panel, and we want to just copy that selection to a new layer. So Control J, and it would be Command J on the Mac, will copy that to a new layer. If I hide the background, we can see there we go, and it's nicely trimmed down at the wheels. Great. Let's turn this on and just make sure we're using the Move tool. We just hit the V key for the Move tool. Okay, what we want to do now is we want to flip this over to make it reflective. So first thing we're going to do is pop into Control T or Command T to go into free transform mode, and this enables us to do a lot of transforming. If you're watching many of my tutorials, you'll know I use this tool all the time. Command T, Control T, keyboard shortcut well worth learning. All right, now we're going to right click, and you'll see different menus. So the one we're going to go to is we want to flip this vertical. We don't want to flip it horizontal, we want to flip it vertical. Click on there, and now we get it. Now all we need to do is move over. You'll notice, you see this, if I drag, we'd be rotating it. I don't want to do that. So we're going to move into our bounding box area, and now I want to drag it down. Now it kind of might pop over a little bit like it's doing there. So if you hold down the Shift key while you're doing this, it's going to constrain it to perfectly vertical. All right, let's have a look now. And what we want to do is just line up those wheels so we've got a nice reflection right there. Now to apply it, hit the Enter key. And it looks like I want to go up 1 pixel. So I just hit the arrow key on the keyboard and tap once, and we can nudge it up or we can nudge it down. See what we can do there? Just nudge that into position 1 pixel at a time. All right, great. Now what we've got here is just kind of a mirror image. I want to make it look a little bit more like a reflection. So the way to do that is if we select on here and we go under Filter and we choose Blur. And what I want to do is just kind of give it that mirrory, watery kind of a blur. And we're going to do that using the direction blur. So what we're going to do is go down here, and we're going to go down to motion blur. And here we are in the motion blur. And I'm just going to pull that up to the side here. I want to make it go perfectly vertical. So I'm going to drag this. Now we want to go to 90 degrees. If you hold down the Shift key, it'll constrain it to 15-degree increments. Makes it very, very easy to get exactly 90 degrees. Now it's up to you how much distance you want to apply here. You can see it. What it's doing is just kind of blurring it a little bit, making it look a little bit more like a reflection and not just a perfect mirror image, because this car is not sitting on a mirror. What we could do is increase it. Notice as we increase it, we get more of a blur, just depending on what you want. So, sometimes you might want to go quite high like this. In this case, I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I don't want it quite so blurry. I want to just do it here. Now, what would really influence this would be things like how much wind or how smooth the top of the surface is. Different things like that would make it look more or less blurred. So I'm going to give it like a little bit less of a blur, taking it to about here. Once again, depending on the effect that you're looking for, you determine the amount of blur that looks right to you. Now remember, if you're working on a higher resolution image, you're going to be using a greater amount of blur than if you were using a lower resolution image. So the setting that I'm using right now of 33 pixels may not necessarily work for your image, depending on the size of the image you're working on, because this is a high resolution image. So if you're just looking for a basic reflection, you could actually just stop here if you wanted. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some different things we can do with these reflections to get different types of effects. And in fact, we're going to end up creating a realistic puddle. But before we do, let's look at something else really quickly with the blurs. So we can see we've got a nice blur here. Now there's different things we can do. One of the things we could do here is create a layer mask. And with this layer mask, what we can do is we can blend this reflection in so it's more reflected at the front and less reflected as it comes towards the viewer, which would probably look a little bit more realistic in a lot of situations. So what we want to do is hit the D key to reset the foreground background colors to black and white. Now we're going to grab our gradient. With our gradient, we want to go up under the options here, and we want to choose foreground to background. And you can see there, that's foreground to background there. You might see it under the basics in yours. Make sure it's set to linear. Normal mode, opacity 100. Reverse doesn't matter, because if you go the wrong way, just drag it again. So let's go down here, making sure the layer mask is selected. We're going to click and we're going to drag down, holding down the shift key once again to do that constraint. And we're going to release it. And see what we do here is we're fading that off now. So it starts to look a little bit more realistic. Now, if you look at some of the things like some of the earlier Apple ads and different things like that, you'd have a shorter reflection. So you would just drag it a shorter distance here, maybe a little bit more. And see what we're doing is we're just putting a little bit of reflection at the top here, which just kind of makes it look like the ground is a little bit more shiny and not so flat. All right, so play around with those options. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to get rid of this mask by right-clicking and just choosing to delete layer mask, and we're going to go back where we were. Let's look at creating some kind of a puddle effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my lasso tool. Now you could draw this using the lasso tool like I'm doing here, and that'll get you somewhat of a shape. The other option is to use the pen tool. The pen tool will actually get us smoother curves, and I have another tutorial on the pen tool if you want to learn how to use that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click and drag in the direction we want to go. And what we're doing is just looking for nice little curves here. Nothing too crazy. We don't want anything too sharp. Just a nice, simple, gentle kind of a curve. There. And then I just click on that point there, and that will complete our curve. Great. So what I want to do now is I just want to select this curve here. So I'm going to go into the Paths panel here and control click to make that selection. Now, if you don't want to use the curves, just remember you can do the lasso tool. You can just kind of draw it that way as well. That'll get you a similar result. All right, let's create a new layer. And on the new layer, I just want to fill this with a color. I'm going to fill it with white, which happens to be my background right now, which is just Command Backspace. Doesn't really matter what color you use, because this is only going to be for the shape. So what we want to do is drag this underneath the car, and what we want to do is fit this reflection inside that shape. Now the way to do that is to create a clipping group. So if we hold down the Alt or the Option key, notice when we go between the two layers, you see this little arrow. When you click, what it does is it forces this top layer here inside that shape. And this is what we want. So what we're doing now is we're constraining our shape or our reflection to this particular shape. Now it doesn't look too much like a puddle yet. We've got some things we need to do. So one of the first things I want to do is just kind of roughen up the edges a little bit, and then we're going to blur the edges so we don't get these hard edges, you know, looking very fake. So let's go into here and we choose Filter, and we're going to go down to Distort, and under Distort, we're going to use the Ripple filter. So let's pop open the ripple. Now remember, we're not doing it on the image, so we're not going to be rippling the image. We're doing it on the shape here. So we're going to be rippling the edges of the shape. So let's just kind of move this around a little bit until we can find that shape. There it is there. And we can just kind of drag it over a little bit to the sides. If it's a little hard to see like it is there, we just hit this minus key a couple of times. We can shrink it down. Okay, so we're at 33. It's just pretty close, but let's make it pretty close in size so we get an idea of what the ripple's going to do. If you look down the bottom left here, you'll see 26.31%. That's in that magnification that we're viewing our image. Now you can't type those numbers in, but if you click, we can go down to 25%, which is as close as we can get. And so if we look here, the effect we're going to get on these edges is going to be very similar to the actual size we're going to see on our image. So you can play around with medium. Notice we get these kind of jaggy edges there. And if we go the other way, the jaggy edges go the opposite. If we go to about 0, we're going to get no jaggy edges. So watch what happens here. See how it just kind of goes that way, and then you go the other way. It's doing the same thing, basically, whether you go positive or negative. But just remember, the center is going to be the least amount, and as we go to the edges, it's going to give us more. All right, but let's have a look and we see if we look at it small. See, it's going to be kind of fine edges. And if we go large, it's going to be these big edges, which are going to look too jaggy, probably not very realistic. So let's go to small, and I'm bringing this up to about 827 for my image. Now remember, depending on the resolution you're working on, it's going to look different. So click, and notice how we get these rougher kind of edges around there. Still not looking very realistic. But what it's going to do is it's going to break it up a little bit for me when I blur it. So let's go in here. We're going to choose Filter Blur. We're going to go down to a Gaussian blur. And then let's pull it up a little bit just so we can start to blur those edges. There we go. And just by kind of jagging it a little bit, what it does is it just gives it a different kind of a fall off than if we applied the Gaussian blur by itself. If we did by itself, we'd have to use a larger amount to get a soft edge, and it would just start to bleed too much. So we're just clicking OK, and now we're getting something a little bit better. Now, what we want to do, though, is we want to go under our layer here. If we turn that layer off, notice it hides everything. So we're going to take our opacity and just pull it down a little bit, and it just allows a little bit more of that ground to show through as well. So those are the steps to create your own puddles. So you can start very basic, or you can add, the additional information to start to get more realism. So anyway, guys, I hope you liked this. Let me know in the comments if you learned anything new about this. Happy 30th birthday to Photoshop. And I've got a special 30th edition of Photoshop video coming up.
All right, guys, what do you think of that?
Good.
That's neat.
I think it looked very realistic when he was done.
Yeah, I wish there would have been a little bit of sound on that last little bit, but basically what it looked like, he went back in and did another Gaussian blur on that layer mask to blur it out a little bit more, and then drop some opacity out of it so it would allow some of that to come in from underneath to get the final product. But I thought that was pretty good. It was simple steps. It wasn't a real hard tutorial. So it'll be in the upload whenever I get this one uploaded, which I owe you guys about 4 uploads now. So I'll get working on those here maybe this weekend.
Yeah, I keep checking daily to see if you have.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Good dig, Margie.
Did you guys, we have a little bit of time. Did you want to watch this video? This is the Jim Nix, I think it was. Was it? Yeah, Jim Nix. This is the video on Luminar AI beta.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, I think that would be good, but I just realized also, I didn't get around to, and you can do it. Do you want to review the Halloween photos?
Yeah, we will right after this video.
Okay.
I think, let's see, this is 30, 15. I'll give us 15 minutes. Yeah, that'll be good.
All right.
There's only about 10 Halloween photos to look at, I think it was. All right, let me show this to you guys. That way you get a little bit better understanding of what's going on. And if this is a bad video, we're blaming Mike. He's the one that said it was a good one to watch.
I only suggested it.
He's backing out.
Yep.
Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in, coming back and watching. I appreciate it. I hope you're doing well, staying safe, taking care of yourselves, all that kind of stuff. And if you're new here, I'm Jim. It's great to meet you. Thanks for tuning in, stopping by, and hanging out. I make tutorial videos here every week showing you how I edit my photos using various software products. Today, my friends, I'm showing you Luminar AI. This is the beta version. They have allowed me to make a video to show how the product looks today. It's a beta, so by definition, things are gonna change. I wanted to be clear about that. I'm going to walk you through a few photos, show you some of the features. This is not a comprehensive review. There's too much to talk about in one video. You know I'm going to be back with more, but I just wanted to clarify. It still comes out late this year. You can get it at the link below, which is an affiliate link. They pay me a small commission if you purchase off my link, and you know that I'll be providing free training videos here when it launches. In the meantime, I've got the beta version. I'm going to show you how it works, what it's all about, and that kind of stuff. Let's get into it. Now, as you know, Luminar AI is not an upgrade or a replacement for Luminar 4. It is a new product built from the ground up with the idea of AI in mind. It's focused on results, not processes or tools. However, if you're like me and you like to tinker with the tools and mess around with the sliders, you can still do that. I'm going to show you that as well. Let's get going, my friends. Here's the base interface. So let me just be really clear. If you have a previous version of Luminar, most notably Luminar 4, you are going to feel very at home here. The transition process, if you want to call it that, moving from Luminar 4 to Luminar AI is not difficult. You're immediately going to feel at home. You've got photos here on the right-hand side. I'm in the catalog tab, by the way. Across the top are 4 tabs. That is basically a suggested workflow going from left to right. So I'm in catalog tab. I've just got a folder on my desktop with a whole bunch of images. I play around with these. I do experiments with these. Some of these make it into videos. Some you may recognize if you've been here before. But I just went over here, added a folder. It stuck it in there. Works like a champ. So I want to show you some of the different things that you can do. And the first thing that begins with is picking a photo. So I'm going to pop over here. I'm going to grab this photo of Pado Lake and I'm going to click templates. You could also just double click and you will notice that the template section comes up on the right hand side. Now there are a number of categories and all of this is not finalized. This will give you a good idea of what it's like. You can see on the right hand side I'm scrolling through various categories. Landscape seems like a really good category to start in considering the subject of this photo. But there's also an essentials category that has landscapes in it. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to click on Fast Fix and you're going to see that apply to the photo right away. Let me show you. There's before and there's after. So that's the Fast Fix template, one click. So I could say, oh, I'd rather have pleasing touch or I'd rather have clear skies. And I don't know what all of these look like on the photo. I'm just kind of clicking. I'd say as of now, I like Fast Fix best. But some of you like to edit your photos, so it's quick and easy to do. By the way, let me back up. On the bottom right here, you can see you can click a heart there to favorite the Fast Fix template. And you can also adjust the opacity. If it's too much for some reason, you can just turn it down. But if you want to go edit that further, you just click on Edit, and it pops you over to the Tools tab. Now, if you used Luminar 4, you're going to recognize these tab icons. The first one is Essentials, same as in the previous in Luminar 4, then Creative, and then Portrait, and then Pro. But some things are different. For example, Composition AI and Erase are right there on the Essentials tab. These are new ways of using the tools within Luminar, and I think it's part of the AI, especially Composition AI, by definition, is AI based. But this gives you quick and direct access, and using Erase does not create a new layer. It's basically something you can do, and I think, let me rephrase that, something you can do as you're editing the photo without worrying about, oh, I created a new layer, and now I'm not editing, on the base layer or whatever. So I think that looks pretty cool. I'm going to go back to templates. No, I'm not. I'm going to go back to catalog. I'm going to grab another photo and show you another example. And in this case, I'm going to get over here. I'm going to double click on this photo. And this is from Haystack Rock in Oregon. And I've got that photo open. I'm going to click on templates. And you know what? Actually, you know what? I'm going to skip. I'm going to go straight to edit because I don't want to use a template. I want to, mess around with the tools. So I'm going to say edit. I'm going to click on that. And let me show you Composition AI. So you open that up. And you can see that the cropping window is there, but if you click on Composition AI, it uses AI to analyze the photo and it suggests a new composition for you. And there it is. It's basically cropped, shrunk my photo, by cropping it a little bit and focused in on Haystack Rock. I can just hit enter to accept that and it'll apply that Composition AI setting to my photo. And for some reason, let's say I've got a spot in the sky, which I do, I can set my brush radius and I can say, hey, I want to get rid of that spot. And I think I saw a spot over here, a couple of them, my lens was kind of dirty. I'm going to say erase, get rid of those and be done with the spots and the composition before I even start my editing. Now I can go into the various tools like light and I can say, hey, Jim, maybe I want to make this a little bit cooler and maybe I want to add a little smart contrast. Pull down the highlights, pull up the shadows. Maybe I want to pop to Enhance AI, which has Accent AI in it. And I'm going to have trouble getting all these straight because it was Accent AI in a previous version. And then in Luminar 3 and Luminar 4, it was AI Accent. Now it's Accent AI again. it's okay. The tool's there. It's amazing. It's doing great things on my photo. I'm happy about that. You can kind of see, you can follow this flow, if you will, of going through. You've got Creative tab, and that's where you have Sky AI, which you also may know as AI Sky Replacement. You've got Atmosphere AI. You've got Mystical. You've got Glow, which also includes Orton here in one of the drop-down menus. You can turn that on if you want to, and you can choose Orton like that. Orton effect. Let me drag the slider. There you go. Just added a little Orton to it. Maybe I like that. Maybe I want to pop over to Pro. On Pro, you have Optics, which you used to know as Lens and Geometry. You also have Clone and Stamp, because that's a little bit more of an advanced feature. It's on the Pro tab. Lots of flexibility. I love the layout and how they've kind of reimagined some of the alignment of the tools like Erase and Clone and Stamp and Composition, especially Composition AI and Erase being at the very top of this first tab, which basically says, hey, let's get the composition right. Let's get rid of any distracting elements. Then let's go edit. I love that setup. So now I'm back in Catalog. I've clicked on this image and I'm going to go over to Edit. No, actually, I'm going to go to Templates one more time. I'm going to say Fast Fix. There we go. That looks great. But hey, I like that, but I want to edit or customize a little bit. So you can go over here and you can see the tabs that have the little dots above them, like Essentials and Pro. They are the ones that have tools that have been applied in this template. So I'm going to go back over here. Let's say I want a little bit more accent AI, and maybe I want to increase contrast a little bit. Maybe I want to give it a little bit of a temperature reduction to cool it off. And you know what, while I'm looking at it, I want to pull on the highlights too. So I basically used a template, customized it, and now I'm in a spot where I'm thinking, this is really cool. But you know what would look really cool is sticking a little bit of fog on there. So that's where you go to the Creative tab and you go to the new Atmosphere AI, and you have the ability to add fog. But the great thing about this tool is it's built on the idea of 3D depth mapping. So it's actually, instead of just sticking a foggy template on top or a foggy texture on top of your photo, it's applying it based on depth, as you can see here. So I can say amount, and you can see it's not covering the entire photo. It's really starting in the back, which is naturally how you're going to see it. You're going to see less fog up front and more in the distance. But if you want to increase the depth, you can see that you can kind of pull that forward into the photo and of course adjust the lightness of it. So if I turn this off, there's before and there's after. You've got a nice application of fog. I think that's really cool. I do want to show you some portrait stuff, so let me hop over there because there's so much to talk about and we'll keep talking. So let's hop over to portrait and do a quick demo of a couple of those features as well. And by the way, before I jump to portraits, I know everybody wants to know about the local masking option, and that is this icon over here. So if you're looking at these 4 tabs and you see this little looks like a little paintbrush or pencil head or something over there. If you click on that, that does take you to local masking, and you can click here to add, and you can add multiple masking tools to any image. However, they have told us don't share very much at all about that tool at this moment because it is going to change. So I don't want to share anything in this video. I'll have to come back and do that for you in another video, but I wanted to acknowledge that you're probably curious about it. I have been using it and it works just fine, but they said some things are going to change, so I don't want to share that for fear that it'll get in your mind and you'll think it's going to be one way and it ends up being another. Whereas a lot of the rest of this UI I think is pretty close to being locked. Some things are going to change, but supposedly the local masking brush or adjustment tool is going to change a fairly significant amount, I guess. I'm not sure. So I'm not going to put it in this video, but trust me, as soon as I can, I'll be back with more details about it. All right, let's get to portraits. Okay, here's a portrait of a young lady taken by Robert Vanelli. He's the director of education at Skyloom, a friend of mine, and he's loaned me some of his portrait photos to have a play around with. So you can, again, I clicked on templates, and you can come in here and you can say in essentials, there's people. Maybe I want to check that out. Maybe I want to use this iconic, and boom, it's applied. You can always come down here and hit reset. And let's say you just want to go over and do everything yourself. You can just hop over here to the portrait tab on the tools menu under edit, of course. And you've got face AI. So you've got several sections here, which allows you to really customize the look of the photo. You've got face light and slim face, which you may be familiar with. You've got iris visibility. This basically impacts how visible the iris is, and you can change that color. Let's say I wanted to make her a blue-eyed person. Now, I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see that a little bit better. Now the blue eyes, they're kind of over the top here. I made them blue. Let me go back to original. So there she is, brown-eyed, goes great. Blue eyes, a little bit over the top, but you can bring that iris visibility down and make it a little bit more of a subtle blue eye implementation. You can add some flare. You can enlarge eyes, whiten the eyes. Let's maybe whiten the eyes a little bit, maybe enlarge them a tiny bit, maybe a tiny bit of iris flare. As I do that, you'll see a little bit of that light flare in the bottom of her eye. So these are things I think you want to be gentle with. I think most people prefer kind of a natural look with their portraits, assuming you're not doing some conceptual modern art kind of thing, in which case, hey, go crazy. You got mouth section down here as well with lips and all that. I think you're probably aware of those things. And just to be clear, the menus actually stay collapsed, and then you can open them to get into those sections for eyes and mouth. For Skin AI, you have, this is basically skin smoothing and shine removal, and it actually has skin defects removal as well. You may be familiar with some of these tools from Luminar 4. And now they have Body AI. Now I'm going to zoom back out. And to be clear, this is not a judgment. Some people prefer to leave things natural. Some people like to enhance the look of the body shape. It's fine either way. You can go either direction. You can kind of shrink that or widen it a little bit. Now, clearly, she's not in need of any of this, to be honest. If I'm taking a picture of myself, it would probably be pretty good to do some of this work. Abdomen, if you'll look at her stomach area, this actually kind of collapses, almost like a little bit of a pincushion look where it's pulling that in a little bit. And then this expands the size of the area, as I understand it. I'm still getting used to some of these tools, but that's a quickie on some of the portrait stuff. It's really powerful with Face AI. I love the iris, the ability to change those colors. I think you could do some really cool conceptual stuff with that. Skin AI and Body AI, really powerful portrait editing tools in Luminar AI that, again, most of these are all AI based. There are 10 AI tools in Luminar AI, 5 of which are brand new to us. So I'm looking forward to you guys having this, and I'm continuing to experiment and play with this and provide some beta testing feedback to my friends over there at Skyloom. So at this point, you could be ready to go, and then you've got the export menu, and you've got a few options here. Again, this is me just totally guessing. I've said this in other videos. I'm assuming this section is going to expand over time and give you more capability, but for now, that's what it looks like. I'm going to go back to the catalog and just kind of, this is where I start, and this is where I would launch my photos and follow the workflow. And you can even see the arrows kind of point as you hover over these. Start with catalog to choose your photo. Use a template to quickly get to a result that you like. Edit if you need or want to customize, and then export when you're finished. It's a results-oriented workflow, as I said, designed to quickly get you where you want to go. And while it's designed for photographers, it's designed for a lot of other people as well. For people that just want quick results and want to not have to worry about the tools, Luminar AI is perfect for that. At the same time, people like me that do like to get into the tools and have great control over the photos, you still have access to those tools. I'm going to continue having fun. I'm going to continue showing videos about Luminar AI, and hope you come back and watch them. And now that I've got it, you can ask me questions about it, and I'll do my best to answer.
There you go, guys.
Well, I guess the only thing I can say is you're not going to believe everything you see on dating apps.
Well, Margie, does that mean you intend to change your profile photo on those dating sites?
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
Hey, Brian, before we start on the Halloween photos, could you remind people what the WPS discount code is for Luminar products?
WPS 10.
WPS 10.
Yep. And if you're interested in that, I'll put a link up on the right-hand side of this screen in here or somewhere, probably in this downloads and links, for you to click on, and that'll get the WPS paid for you guys buying it.
Yeah, that'll be great.
So that helps out. I mean, you get the discount.
How much?
If you're buying the regular Luminar, it's a 10% discount. And right now there's no discount on the new Luminar AI, but it is discounted if you purchase it right now.
So everything you have seen, it's just that difference between 4 and AI is AI has more in sliders.
AI has more artificial intelligence stuff.
All right. But it still has everything 4 has.
It still has everything 4 has plus. Yes.
Okay. So it's better to wait for AI if you're really going to.
Yeah, I'll put a link down. I'll put a link here for it. I got to pull it out of my emails because we have an affiliate link like he mentioned. So don't go use his. We don't need to pay him. We'll pay ourselves.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about that?
When does it come out again?
I don't. All they're saying right now is later this year. So I'm going to assume late November, early December, but I don't know yet. They haven't given a date.
Okay.
Okay, Halloween pictures. Don't everyone talk at the same time.
Kind of creepy.
So is that Suzanne's photo?
Yes.
Suzanne, could you tell us how you created this work of art?
Well, I used a lens baby, and I did put an artificial sky in this one because it was a pretty bright day, and I wanted to make it look a little bit scarier since it's supposed to be a Halloween photo. If I would have given it a title, I would have called it like A Strange Gathering, because there are witches there alongside a Thanksgiving turkey and gingerbread people.
Where was it taken?
Triple B Farms. And I couldn't get very close. They had like, some sections of the farm you could just walk around on your own. And this part you had to get on a tractor hay ride, and I didn't want to do that, so I was pretty far away when I took the photo with the lens baby. It's a pretty basic, the lens baby that I have, it's one of the first ones they made, so it's not the greatest one, but I can still get some good, I think different effects with it. I liked it without the artificial sky too, but I think it just made it a little creepier with it. So this time I did use a little help there.
All right.
This I just happened to see. This I took with an 85mm lens. I was just driving by and somebody had that in their yard, and thought it was different. There were a lot of really good Halloween decorations out there this year. It was, I could have taken a million pictures, but this one I liked because I like bikes. And then I tried to make it look like an old photo, like something you'd run across, from, I don't know, 60 years ago or whatever.
Seeing the skeleton there reminds me, I think they must be new this year. There's some skeletons in our general area that must be 12 to 15 foot tall. They're not balloons. They're actually skeletons like you see here.
Yeah, there's a lot like that. There's somebody in downtown Elizabeth right next to the post office. They have full-size skeletons sitting on their porch on the Chase Lounge wearing sunglasses and hats. It was pretty funny. I thought about taking a photo of that, but I would have been taking a photo of somebody's porch, and after I got yelled at about the farm, I was a little gun shy.
Yeah, Suzanne, just go up, knock on the door and ask them if you can take a picture. That's what I.
Yeah, I will. I thought about it.
Caesar, is that like an old spring house or something that's
Yeah,
perched on top of?
that's my guess.
That's cool. I like that.
Yep. Time of the days. Yep.
Another
Okay.
another lens baby shot. The same lens baby. What I liked about this one is the house in the back.
I do too.
I mean, that was perfect. These were just pumpkins, and then when I used the color, it made the pumpkins darker like that. So, but I like the house part, and then I like the shirts they have on too.
Yeah. They're invading. The pumpkin people.
Yeah, I would have called that my next door neighbors.
Well, I'll tell you what, Suzanne, you're making good use of the lens, baby. Those were nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fun thing to play around with. I mean, you're never going to get anything sharp with the one I have, but I think that's fine. You know, I like the fact.
This is Annie's, I think.
Yep. That is actually projected onto the side of a garage.
Oh. On a t-shirt.
What's that?
Be nice on a t-shirt.
Yeah, well, that's actually probably a good 15 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
And projected, like I said, it's projected onto the side of a garage.
Cool.
Did you darken it so just the eyes are appearing, or was that the way
Well,
the
that's
projection was?
well, I did darken it a little bit so that I wasn't seeing the brick, but I did take it so that, you know, I wasn't seeing the brick, so that everything was darker around the eyes. But yeah, there's a house up the road from me here that they had it projected onto the side of their house, and I just liked it, so I brought it home and I just darkened it. But it has, that's all it was, is the two eyes projected onto the side of the garage.
You see the way it brings it up where nothing shows on each side? When you're looking at photo choice, you really need to make sure you bring it up so that there isn't anything on the sides and it's just a good full picture.
This is this is a blow up. It was down on Youngwood. I went up around to drop something off for my mom and thought I'd drive around, and had never seen the red blow up thing before. And then beside it they had like two guys with the white mask on it. So kind of liked it. It was something different.
Get rid of Fortnite.
Was that?
Get rid of Fortnite.
Yeah.
Get rid of that.
Okay.
What is that? Is that a lamp post?
No, it's one of those big blow up things that you
No,
put in
I
the front
mean-
yard. That thing
Yeah,
is.
I mean what Brian said to get rid of.
It's the house.
Oh, that's the house.
That's the house. That's the house in back of it.
That's
Oh,
pretty
that's neat.
cool.
Yeah, this one kind of, I was driving through South over by my mom's house, and this is just a small side yard of these people's house, and they had two skeletons carrying a little casket that had flowers in it, I just thought it was kind of cute. Just caught my eye. What is that, Nightmare on Halloween or whatever? Tim Burton.
Yeah, it's a couple of different versions of it, but yeah, that's Tim Burton stuff.
Yeah. These people had all of these in their front yard. I just thought they were kind of cute. Kind of stood out. I was out taking photos whenever it was raining, so. And then this house is across the street from that one. And they've gone all out. I know it's not the best shot, but
They got a lot of junk in their yard.
well, that's only part of it. That's not all of it. They have more off to the right and more off to the left.
I could see it like Halloween.
Yep. Well, you got to see the house at Christmas time. Not only did they go all out for Halloween, but at Christmas time, that their whole yard is totally filled with Christmas too. So they really like to decorate. And that house is only about a mile up the road from me, maybe 2.
Hey, before we leave Annie, on a different subject, Annie.
Yep.
I noticed that you post a photo sometime in the last couple of days, I guess, under the category World Beauty. And I was wondering if you really intended the flare to be for the October photo contest.
No, the ones that I want for the October photo contest said that the files were too big. So I have to make the files a little smaller.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked your swan, Annie.
Thank you. Those are actually 2 different swans.
Oh.
There was a pair of them whenever Morty and I went out. I took her down to a little pond and there was 2 swans and 1 goose.
All right. Mike, is this your picture?
Yes. Yeah.
Mike, are you on the left or the right of this photo?
No, I'm the one behind the camera.
That's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's right by Market Square. About not even a quarter of a block down from there. Yeah.
That's the zombie walk, Mike?
Yeah, it's a zombie walk. That was from a very long time ago, 2011.
Yep. If you guys ever have a chance to go downtown for the zombie walk, go watch it.
Usually they have picked different spots throughout the years.
I know I would spend a week after that cleaning all the fake blood off the Radio Shack windows and stuff.
Mrs. Candy.
Yeah, that's my spider.
Is it real or fake?
It's real. It was out by my back porch,
I
and
would burn the house down.
oh no!
He's radioactive.
And it was dark, so I went out and the flash went off. I didn't really intend it to, but it turned out to make a really good picture.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nice.
I'd still burn the house down.
I guess you don't like spiders.
Well, how big do you figure the spider was or is?
He was maybe half an inch.
That's big enough. Burn the house down.
He was outside, Brian.
He's coming in though.
No, no, I have nothing inside that he wants.
Aw.
When that's my granddaughter, and it was last year, I think. She lives in Georgia. She was out picking a pumpkin, so.
Cute.
So I titled it Beauty and the Beast, and you can decide on whichever day you want, which one is Beauty and which one is Beast.
I like
I
how
got a
our
couple
hair
of
is
granddaughters like that too.
blowing. Oops, I'm sorry. I was just going to say I like how our hair is blowing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty.
Yep. Mike, is it?
I decided to composite just for the heck of it. That was from the zombie walk 5 years ago, I think it was. It was at the West End part of town.
Okay.
And that
Well,
was it.
That's a great background for the composite, though.
Yeah, it is.
It took me a while. I got it off the internet, so it looks appropriate enough.
Yep. All right. I do believe that was, it was the last one for the Halloween picks.
No, it isn't. I have mine on there.
Do you have them under Halloween picks?
Yeah, I got Halloween picks on there.
Oh, why?
You must not have flared it.
I did flare it.
When'd you do them?
Tonight?
Yeah, there was one.
Dennis's too.
Yeah, there they are. Halloween pick.
Somebody posted them since the meeting started, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody went next door.
Yep.
You know what, Margie? It looks like you removed the telephone wires.
Nope. There wasn't any.
No.
I was just teasing.
They come into the back.
She went next door.
Mm-hmm.
Take this 6 and duplicate it and make it 666.
Oh, that's a good idea. I could have been there too. Didn't even think about it.
Oh, good.
Well, it's taken in the rain.
Margie, the bottom of the photo, did you do something with it, if you will?
You mean add a little bit of fog?
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Indian fog. Indian fog is the low ground fog. At least us Texans call it Indian fog.
All right.
All right. Next.
Okay.
Blood and guts. They've sucked his guts out. Pus and blood.
Okay. That's a funky pumpkin, gourd, whatever it is.
Well, it was gory. It took me forever to get that gourd in a microwave so it caves in so I could put the blood and guts in there.
I take it Marissa found what you were looking for.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had problem with the blood though. It wouldn't stay up there. It would drip down. And so I mixed up a mixture to put it in there so it looks like sort of guts coming out.
Okie dokie.
All right. What else was there? Excuse me. There's.
Oh, I didn't.
No flare.
No. Third time I uploaded them, that's why I forgot.
That's all right, no problem.
Look, Brian in costume.
Oh, come on. His hair isn't that long.
Like I say, the only part of that costume that's a costume is the hair. Come on.
When we lived
And
in
it has
Connecticut,
better complexion.
when we lived in Connecticut before 2016, my Lions Club did a haunted hayride every year, and I photographed it. And this is it's lit with a green lamp, 2-second exposure of an actor along the hayride route.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it turned out all right.
And that's natural fog, Dennis?
No. It could be. I mean, certain years it was, but this one is not.
Well, you didn't add the fog.
No, I didn't add the fog.
Cassia.
All right, let's see what else we got here.
It's it's the owner of the Ace Hardware store, and he gets his grins by dressing up at Halloween, and he's standing in front of standing by the side of a porch light at a barn that we used for this hayride, and I thought it made a pretty decent photo.
Come here.
Yeah.
I did do his left eye is cloned from his right. When I took the photo, it was dark, so I didn't have an eye, so I put one in.
Makeup's cool.
Yeah. It's an actor. I like the eyes.
Nifty
And
contacts.
yeah, and the orange hair.
There was a girl walking around the store today. She had orange hair.
The eyes that freak me out.
Yeah, it's unusual.
Yep.
I knew someone in college that had eyes like that all the time.
Yeah.
Nice. Was there any more guys?
What was that one back
Did you
up?
just pass something, Brian? That's
Yeah. What?
Like a
One up.
forest?
no,
Keep
one
going.
up.
One up. Right there.
It's not for this.
Oh, that's the photographer's choice.
Photographer's choice.
No, never mind.
I think that was all of them, guys. Yep.
Hey, Brian, I posted my daisy.
Uh-huh.
It was better than yours, too. Right there. 2 of them.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. All right. So Sunday's drop off for the pictures, don't forget.
Yep.
Jim, is the prospectus posted somewhere?
The prospectus, did you say?
Yeah. For the show in Irwin.
Beth,
I emailed it out.
All right, I'll look for it.
All right.
Brian, how many photos do we have? How many titles do we have?
Over 40.
Good. That'll be nice.
What kind of mount do they want? Do they
Wire hangers and wire on the back.
only?
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even check the back of yours. What you can
No, is there?
was there wire on the back of the seagull?
There was wire in the bag posted to the back of the image. Because I made an acrylic print at White House, and it's got a 1-inch standoff, and the standoff has a notched hanger, no wire.
Hmm.
You're gonna have to have a wire.
I'm not sure. I'd have to get a hold of Tracy and find out.
I can see about putting a wire on it.
She may be able to hang it just the way it is.
All right.
But I'm not sure. I'll have to see if I can get a hold of her tomorrow.
All right.
And find out.
Hey guys, I'm going to share one more picture with you guys.
Oh no.
It's a no. This is from let's see, today's the 29th, 28, 27, 2 days ago, 5 years ago. The 27th, 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think you were gonna.
That is from Bourbon Street in New Orleans.
Yep.
That's
Did you get those beads?
We won't talk about that.
Who'd you get down there with?
Me.
Oh, you? That's when you guys stopped on your way to Texas.
Yeah.
On the way back from Texas.
Or on their way back.
Uh-huh.
Anyhow,
Yep.
These guys were walking around, and they would this giant guy here would pretty much get a hold of you, and then you had to get your picture taken with him, and then you had to give him money, or otherwise they wouldn't let you go. So
Yeah, you gotta watch those guys on Bourbon Street like that. They're like that.
so anyhow, I thought
Not
I'd share that with you.
said that I recognized the Bourbon Street where you're standing.
Margie has kept that one secret for 5 years, and I appreciated it, so I decided I'd go ahead and let you all see it.
I did. I wasn't going to show it to anybody.
So,
that's good.
All right.
He said it was our anniversary from 5 years ago, so I decided to pick a picture out, go along with that.
Yeah, I was looking through some old photos on my iPhone and seen that it was exactly 5 years the other day whenever I was going through them and seeing some pictures from Bourbon Street. I knew it was 5 years ago. So anyhow, so picture drop off on Sunday. Annie, can I drop my pictures off to you Saturday sometime evening?
Yeah, well, you can.
I'll put them on your porch. I don't care.
You
Well,
can
you'll have to.
Ryan, and then you can help me with my computer.
Yeah, you can bring them and put them on my porch because I will be closing the store Saturday night.
Okay.
So, but I'll be at work till about 9:30. I won't be up till about 9:30, maybe 9:45.
All right, because I think I'll be in Wheeling all day on Sunday, so I don't think I'll be available. So, anyhow, all right.
I happen to be off on. I looked at the schedule and I'm off on Sunday, so that worked out for me.
All right. Let's see. Next week. What's next week? Next week is the 1st of the month. So we'll have our SWG meeting, or no, not our SWG. I'm sorry. Our SWG light on Wednesday night of next week.
Oh, okay.
And then the following week will be our last Photoshop class for the year. I moved it to the second Tuesday because of something else that's giving me some issues.
You mean the second Wednesday?
Second Wednesday. Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I said. So anyhow, next week we'll have just a regular SWG light meeting. I may or may not be on the call for that. I may do one of them where I have to punch in and let you guys talk and then I go away. So it depends on how my schedule goes next week. And then the following week will be our last Photoshop class. And then we'll go from there. That'll probably also be the same week as our meeting, I think, because the 1st is Sunday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll have a
Have we
meeting.
have we had anybody jumping up and down wanting to take a position of one of the officers?
Yeah, I think Jim should. I know.
No, no one has jumped up and down saying that they would like to be one of the officers. I haven't received any emails. Have you guys received any emails or anybody saying that they'd like to be an officer?
Nope.
Okay.
Hey, Brian, just one other note for people. So like we did the Halloween photos for this SWG meeting, for the November SWG meeting, it's going to be 3 photos that you've had juried into an art show.
Yes, I forgot about that. There's a flare up for that. I forget what I named it, but there's one in there for that. So that'll be for our November SWG meeting. Post 3 pictures of yours that you've had juried into some show at some point. And they don't have to be recent, so anything, you know, at any point, whatever.
We thought this might be a good follow-up to Ann Crabill's speaking at our meeting in November, who's going to be talking about what a jurist looks like for photos, that then we'll have an opportunity for members to see what photos have in fact gotten into shows.
Yep.
I don't even know if I could pull any of those up yet.
I have one question for Brian.
Yeah.
In the luminous form, number 4, that I was working on, when I put a sky in, the sky ran into the house.
You can adjust that with there's adjustments in there to go up and down and move it. And I believe you can erase parts of it too.
All right. I didn't get that far.
Yeah, there's more adjustments in there. It's good, but it's not 100% perfect. So you do have to go in and make a few little adjustments here and there.
Yeah, as long as it's got an eraser or something like that, that would be great. Well, I ate this morning, so I am awfully hungry. So I'm getting ready to leave you all.
All right.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else from anyone else, we'll call it an evening.
Good night, all.
Good night. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jim.
Good night.
Thank
Thanks.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Happy Halloween.
Yep.
Well, you know what? Could I ask one question?
Sure.
Sure.
Could I post a photo that has a swear word on it? It's like a photo. Would anybody be offended, or is that against the policy or anything?
No, go ahead. You're okay.
Wait a moment. What's the swear
Like
word?
graffiti or something like that?
It's on somebody's shirt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. But it's the F word. Is that okay?
It is what it is.
All right. I didn't want to offend anybody.
No, you guys have probably heard me say that, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, me too. So. Okay.
Yeah, that'll
Right, thanks.
The only thing that we don't we try to shy away from is nudity.
Okay. I'm not real sure I'm going to use that one, but I might, for the October contest. So.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Bye.
Night. Maybe I'll see you Sunday, Annie.
Okay.
Okay. Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, kids.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Not.